Hi, Pat here. I'm back to show you how you can make your own dice rolling tray for less than $10 in materials. Stick around. Are you sick of dice falling off the table when you're playing board games or tabletop RPGs? Then you need a dice tray. You can find a wide selection of them on Amazon, but of course, I'm going to make my own. I decided to make the dice tray from poplar this time around because it's not expensive, it's easy to work with, and it's a great wood to use for projects where you plan on painting the wood at the end. So I bought a 1/4 inch by 6 inch poplar hobby board from my local big box store and got to work. I chose to make the base of my box square. Since the poplar board is actually 5.5 inches wide, I measured that far down the length of the board and cut the base piece using my miter saw. To make the side pieces, I first made a 45-degree cut at the end of the board before cutting off about 13 inches. The side pieces will be 1.5 inches high, so I can cut all 4 sides from this board with plenty of room to spare. I'll join the sides to the base using a groove at the bottom of each side piece. So, using a 1/4 inch router bit, I adjusted the height of the bit and the placement of my fence. Then, I routed the groove into both sides of the board. Now, the base and the sides will sit flush together. After some careful measuring, I cut the 13-inch board into 2 smaller pieces that match the lengths I need for the sides using a 45-degree angle on the cuts. Then, I split each of those pieces into 1.5 inch high parts that are the final sides. For this last step, I realized it was faster and more accurate to use a stop block, so I clamped down a board 1.5 inches away from the blade and cut the other 3 sides. I was done cutting the pieces, so I quickly tested them to make sure everything joins together nice and tight. Then I put glue on all the side pieces that'll join together with the base or other sides. I used my finger to spread the glue and wipe away any excess to minimize squeeze out. Then I assembled the dice tray and used clamps to press everything together until the glue dried. Now the basic dice tray is done, but there are still some improvements we can make. The first thing I wanted to do was round over all the sharp corners of the tray. So I used 60 grit sandpaper on a sanding block to take care of that. Then I used 120 grit sandpaper over the entire tray to prepare the wood for painting. Once I was done sanding, I gave it a quick test spin. Hey, it works! I painted the wood using glossy black spray paint I bought at the hobby store. It's really cold outside, so I had my hands full trying to apply the paint in my cold garage and immediately moving the piece back inside to let the paint dry correctly. So unfortunately, I didn't film that part. But I got a really nice finish by applying 3 coats of paint and letting it dry for over an hour per the can's directions. Then I sanded everything with 220 grit sandpaper before applying another 2 coats of paint. Once it fully dried, the paint was nice and smooth. Once the paint dried, I have one task left. Add some felt to the bottom of the tray. To make sure I get a perfect fit, I first made a template out of regular paper. I cut a piece of paper to fit exactly the size of the bottom of the tray. After I tested that it fit, I made sure to keep track of the orientation of the template so I know how the felt will correctly fit into the dice tray. For the felt, I used peel and stick craft felt, which already has an adhesive backing. Using the paper template as a guide, I used my straight edge and utility knife to cut a piece of the felt. Then I just peeled away the wax paper on the back and carefully applied it to the bottom of the dice tray. Now it's done, and it's time for one final test. Perfect! There you have it. It's easy to make your own dice tray. The paint job turned out really well by adding in that one step of sanding. And using the adhesive-backed felt was so easy, cutting and adding the felt only took a few minutes. So if you're wondering how much this cost, I spent $6 on the poplar board, and I still have half of it left. The felt only cost $1 at the hobby store, and I still have most of that. And I bought the can of spray paint on sale for only $3. So my total cost was only $10, and I have enough leftover material to make a whole other dice tray. That's a pretty good deal. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked my video, consider subscribing to my channel or at least leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.